I knew the meeting was going to be a disaster when I saw the bagel spread. It was that sad, corporate assortment of dry pumpernickel and blueberry imitation bagels that look like they've been sitting out since the last fiscal quarter, paired with a tub of cream cheese that had definitely seen warmer days. But the real tell wasn't the stale carbs, it was the smell of the room. It smelled like fear and cheap cologne. Cocktail I've come to recognize over 20 years in IT. We were herded into the main conference room, the visionary suite, because apparently naming rooms after actual functions is too passé for the modern fintech disruptor. I stood in the back, leaning against the server room door frame, my natural habitat. I'm Grace. I don't do synergy, I don't do circle backs, and I certainly don't do whatever the hell was happening at the front of the room. I do security. Specifically, I manage the dark, boring, and terrifyingly important intersection where this private financial firm touches the federal government's money. Enter Caleb Roth, the new VP of Technology. Caleb is what happens when a LinkedIn profile gains sentience and buys a Patagonia vest. He's 32, has teeth white enough to blind a pilot, and speaks exclusively in TED Talk subtitles. He'd been here 3 weeks. In that time, he'd managed to use the phrase paradigm shift 47 times, I counted, and had yet to log into a single administrative console correctly. He tapped the microphone, sending a screech of feedback through the room that made half the engineering team wince. Team, family, rock stars, Caleb started, flashing a smile that didn't reach his dead, shark-like eyes. We're entering a new era, an era of agility. An era of cloud-first, lean-forward, disruptive innovation. Checked my watch. 9:04 a.m. He had 6 minutes before I had to run the daily encryption cycle on the node. To get there, Caleb continued, his voice dropping to that faux somber tone executives use when they're about to ruin lives. We need to trim the fat. We need to shed the legacy weight that's anchoring us to the past. The room went silent. You could hear the hum of the HVAC system and the distinct sound of a junior developer hyperventilating. Grace, he said. He didn't look at a piece of paper. He just looked right at me, pointing a finger gun. Actual finger guns in a layoff meeting. You're a legend here, really. But your role, it's redundant. We're moving everything to an automated cloud infrastructure managed by an external vendor. The on-prem hardware is dinosaur tech. Today is your last day. The air left the room. People turned to look at me. I saw pity in the eyes of the older sysadmins, the ones who knew that dinosaur tech was actually a hardened localized server mandated by the Department of Defense. I didn't blink, I didn't cry. I just felt a strange, cold clarity wash over me. It was the same feeling I get when I see a red line in a server log, a problem that needs isolating. Is that so? I asked, my voice flat. It is, Caleb smirked, clearly enjoying the power trip. HR has your packet. Security will escort you out. Oh, and Grace, please leave the company laptop on the table. Asset retention policy. Now, here is the part where most people would scream. They would shout about their 15 years of service, the weekends spent patching zero-day exploits, the holidays missed keeping the network from imploding. I almost did. But then I looked at the laptop in my hand. It wasn't a standard issue Dell. It was a heavy, matte black unit with reinforced ports and a biometric scanner that required a fingerprint and a retinal match to boot the OS. It was one of 3 audit nodes in existence. Caleb, I said, stepping forward, you sure about the hardware? This isn't a standard workstation. Company property, Grace, he snapped, his smile fading into annoyance. Leave it. We'll wipe it and repurpose it for the interns. Repurpose it for the interns. The absurdity of it almost made me laugh. He wanted to give a machine containing classified cryptographic keys to a 20-year-old named Braden so he could make TikToks on his lunch break. I walked up to the table. The room was watching the old guard surrender to the new blood. I placed the laptop gently on the mahogany surface. Okay, I said. It's all yours, Caleb. I turned to leave. Hey, hold up a sec, he called out. I stopped. Badge 2. I unclipped my badge, one with the special holographic stripe that allowed entry into the SIF, Sensitive Compartmented Information Facility, in the basement, and tossed it next to the laptop. Speaking of tossing things, if you're enjoying witnessing a corporate train wreck in slow motion, go ahead and hit subscribe and give this a like. It helps me pay for the therapy I clearly don't need because I have revenge instead. Thanks, guys. Good luck with the cloud, I said, walking toward the exit. We make our own luck, Caleb replied, already turning his back to me to address the terrified survivors. I walked out of the conference room, down the long hallway lined with inspirational posters that said things like grit and hustle, and into the elevator. My hands weren't shaking. My heart wasn't racing. I was in diagnostic mode. Because here's the thing Caleb didn't know, that laptop isn't just a computer. It's a literal piece of federal infrastructure on loan to the firm. It's tracked, it's monitored, and most importantly, it has a sticker on the bottom that he didn't bother to read. As the elevator doors slid shut, cutting off the view of the office I'd built from the ground up, I reached into my pocket. My fingers brushed against a small, innocuous-looking USB drive. It wasn't data I'd stolen. I'm not a criminal. It was my personal encryption key backup, something I'm legally required to keep on my person at all times per the terms of my clearance. Without me, and without that key, the audit node on the table wasn't just a brick. It was a time bomb, and Caleb had just decided to sit on it. I walked out into the parking lot. The sun was shining, the birds were singing, and I had a feeling that the Department of Defense was going to be very interested in Caleb's asset retention policy. I sat in my car, a practical, paid-off sedan because I'm an adult, and stared at the building. I could see Caleb through the glass walls of the conference room, gesturing wildly, probably explaining how much money he just saved the company. Idiot, I whispered. I started the car. I didn't go home immediately. I drove to a diner 3 towns over, ordered coffee and pie, and sat there for 2 hours just breathing. I needed to let the timestamp solidify. I needed the logs to show a clear gap between my termination and whatever stupid thing he was about to do next. The game had started, and he didn't even know he was playing. My home office is a sanctuary of cable management. There is no dust, there are no tangled wires. There's a tri-monitor setup that hums with the low, steady frequency of a well-oiled machine. It's the antithesis of the chaotic, open-plan nightmare I just left. I sat down in my Herman Miller chair. I won indulgence and exhaled. The adrenaline from the morning was fading, replaced by the dull ache of insult, redundant. The word kept bouncing around my skull. I built that network. I patched it when the Russians poked at it in 2016. I secured it when the crypto miners tried to hijack our servers in 2020. And now, I was redundant because a guy who wears loafers with no socks said so. I opened my personal laptop. Be clear, I did not hack back into the company. I didn't need to. I am the custodian of the Federal Bridge. My status as a contact point for the agency doesn't disappear just because Caleb took my badge. Until the paperwork clears in DC, which takes weeks, I am still the registered keeper of the keys. I logged into the external government portal. It's a drab, gray website that looks like it was designed in 1998, but it has more security layers than the Pentagon. Two-factor authentication, a hardware token, and a password that is 32 characters of gibberish. Access granted. I navigated to the asset status page. There they were, the 3 audit nodes. Node 1, offline safe in the server room. Node 2, offline safe in the backup vault. Node 3, active. My stomach dropped. Node 3 was the laptop I left on the table. It shouldn't be active. It should have gone into sleep mode the moment my biometrics were removed from the immediate vicinity for more than 10 minutes. Unless he forced a hard reboot, I muttered to the empty room. I watched the logs populate in real time. The timestamps were glowing in amber text against the black background. 11:42 a.m., hard reset initiated. 11:45 a.m., BIOS challenge failed. 11:46 a.m., BIOS challenge failed. 11:50 a.m., admin override attempted user, Croth admin. He was trying to brute force a federally encrypted machine using his corporate admin credentials. It was like trying to open a bank vault with a library card. Caleb, you absolute moron, I whispered. I took a sip of water, my eyes glued to the screen. Every failed attempt was being logged not just on the machine, but on the mirrored server at the agency. He was flagging himself. With every incorrect password, he was waving a giant digital flag that said, "Hi, I am unauthorized and I am touching sensitive material." Then the log changed color. Red, 12:05 p.m., perimeter breach alert intrusion detected on port 8080. He wasn't just trying to log in. He had plugged it into the open internet. I closed my eyes and pinched the bridge of my nose. The audit nodes are air-gapped devices. They are never, ever supposed to touch the public web. They connect only via a secure, encrypted tunnel. By plugging an Ethernet cable into it, or worse, connecting it to the office Wi-Fi, Caleb had just exposed a classified endpoint to the wild internet. This wasn't a firing offense anymore. This was a federal agents in windbreakers showing up at your house offense. I had a choice. I could call him. I could call the office, get him on the line, and scream at him to unplug it before the automated sweepers found it. I could save his career. I could save the company the massive fine they were about to incur. I reached for my phone. I dialed the main office line. "Thank you for calling," I hung up. "Redundant," I said aloud. "I'm redundant." If I was redundant, then my warnings were redundant too. Instead, I opened a new email window. I typed in the address of my handler at the agency. Let's call him Agent Miller. Miller is a man who has no sense of humor and even less patience for incompetence. Subject: Notice of status change / potential asset compromise Agent Miller. Effective 09:00 a.m. today, my employment with company name was terminated. I was ordered to surrender custody of Audit Node 3, serial hash 8892 alpha, to Mr. Caleb Roth, VP of Technology. Despite my verbal warning regarding chain of custody protocols, I am observing erratic activity on the asset beacon. I am no longer on premises and cannot intervene. Please advise. Regards, Grace. I hit send. The beauty of the system is the bureaucracy. I had done my duty. I had reported the separation. I had reported the asset location. Whatever happened next was entirely 100% on Caleb.